Hi, and welcome to this presentation on the writing process. According to your textbook, there are 5 parts to the writing process. Those include pre-writing, outlining, drafting a rough draft, revising, and editing. One thing that I just want to add to that is that the writing process is a series of stages and not steps, meaning that as writers, we move between those steps quite frequently. You might start out pre-writing and then move to outlining and figure out you just don't have enough information, and so you go back to pre-writing. You might be drafting and you might go back to pre-writing because you've run out of material. Even people who have gone through the writing process entirely and who are, in the peer revision stages, they may have to go back to the drawing board. And so it's this idea that you can go back and forth between the parts of the writing process frequently during the writing of just one essay. So, you can go back and forth. Some people will draft and revise and edit at the same time. So some things will happen concurrently. Some things you may have thought you've gone past. I'm done with the pre-writing stage, but then you may have to revisit those stages later. We'll start with pre-writing. And pre-writing is really anything that you do before you start writing your essay. It's the process of taking what you're thinking and putting it out on paper. The best idea is to work from quantity, so don't let your creativity be stifled. If it seems like a dumb idea, put it down anyway. Anything that comes to mind can be explored in the pre-writing stage. Don't let your inner critic come out, because that's when things kind of stop and your creativity, as I mentioned before, gets a little bit stifled. You can do this to find a topic. You can do pre-writing after you found a topic. It really doesn't matter. You can pre-write to just generate some general ideas. 4 strategies that we'll talk about in depth for pre-writing are using your experience and observation, reading, free writing, and then asking questions. So those are 4 really good strategies that you can use to just find a topic. So choosing a topic, a good topic is what an assignment, obviously it's going to cover what an assignment will be about, and it will also fit the purpose and your audience. And we'll talk about audience and purpose in another presentation. But here are some ways that you can generate a topic. Number 1, you can use experience and your observations. Find something that is of interest to you, something that you know a lot about, something that's based on your own experiences. That's what's going to make a really good topic. And probably from that topic that you know a lot about, you'll be able to generate additional ideas, main ideas that you're going to explore in that particular piece. The second way to generate a good topic is to read. It might be something that you read about in the general newspaper in the morning. It might be something that you come across on social media. It could be something that you find on an online news website. Whatever you're reading can spark topic ideas. It could even be a novel, for that matter. Whatever you're reading sparks topics. Kind of think outside of the box. When you do read, critical reading is essential. Evaluate main ideas, their support, the arguments that they're providing, and maybe respond to something. Maybe you read something and you really disagree with it. You think that the arguments are wrong. Maybe it's about some kind of a political decision or something that's happening in your hometown, and you have some opinions, you disagree with the author. Those are great topics for you to explore in pieces of writing. The next way to generate a topic is to simply free write. And again, this is where you don't doubt yourself. Get rid of that inner critic and just write down anything that comes to mind. So you might freely write about one particular topic, or if it's a very general essay topic prompt that you've been given, write a descriptive essay, for example. You might just go hog wild and write about anything that could be descriptive. If it's to write about describe a place, well, now you've gotten a little bit more specific. And so you can free write about places that you might be interested in. If the prompt is to write descriptively about your room, well, then you might just free write about that room. And so it kind of depends on what your prompt is as to how big your scope is for your free write. When you free write, there's never a worry about grammar. Doesn't matter if you're writing incomplete sentences. The biggest thing is that you don't want to doubt yourself. So let that inner critic should kind of be pushed aside. Even if you think it might not be something you're going to ever write about, put it down anyway, because it might spark and lead to something else. The fourth way, is to ask questions. So maybe you have a particular topic in mind, or maybe you have a prompt in mind. Ask who, what, where, when, why, and how questions. And so that can generate things that you might be able to write about. It will also help you to revisit what you think about the topic, and will also then help you to generate new aspects of the topic. So a really effective way to pre-write. Other pre-writing techniques, you can brainstorm away. I really suggest that whatever you're doing for pre-writing, that you're doing something. You can write on a napkin. You can do a brainstorm. It could be in the form of a list, a slashed outline, or a fishbone. You can check those ideas out if you want to. But really, brainstorming is just a matter of getting your ideas out. Leads nicely into idea mapping, the cluster, or the web. In this case, instead of maybe a list, it's more visual, and so maybe you have circles represented by your main idea topics, and then little arms off of that, kind of like a spider web. The last way is that you could also search the internet. Now, obviously, you don't want to copy things right from the internet, but what we find on the internet might spark something. So if, again, the prompt is a descriptive essay, you might type something in like descriptive essay, and it will pull up a whole bunch of topics. Again, you don't want to copy those word for word in terms of the essays, because that would be plagiarism, but you can maybe take something of an idea like that and create your own descriptive essay. Outlining is the second part of the writing process, and this really has to do with organization. There's lots of ways to outline, and we'll talk about that coming up, but it's really getting your thoughts in order. What are you going to put first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc.? There's three common ways to organize. Chronological order, which is time order. Spatial order, which is based on location. So you're going to go top to bottom, maybe left to right. And then order of importance. And so you rank things either of least importance to greatest importance, or vice versa, from greatest to least importance. Outlining can be very formal. It can be informal depending on your purpose. It could take the form of a list. It could take the form of all those Roman numerals. The outline, though, should be a little more detailed than your brainstorm. So let's say you brainstorm a list. Now this is where you come up with your topic. Now you're going to put down, what am I going to talk about and discover with this topic? List both main ideas and supporting details. If you have questions, there are two outlines. Actually, there's the same outline in two different formats on page 317 and 319. And then those bullets underneath, if you're using Roman numerals, you're going to use Roman numerals 2 through whatever when you're talking about your body paragraphs. Your capital letters are going to divide the main idea into parts. You can write either as complete sentences or just as single words. You have some options there. And so again, as formal or as informal as you want those outlines to be is fine. The third part is drafting. Drafting includes developing a complete first version of a piece of writing. And as you'll read, those first versions may not be very good, and that's okay. The one thing we don't want you to do is to suffer from writer's block. And so there are some hints. If you're really having a hard time getting your work down on paper, begin writing the part that you know the most about. A lot of people would say write your intro and conclusion last, because those are the two most difficult things to write about a lot of times. So write your body paragraphs first. You might choose to write one paragraph at a time and then stop, take a little break, come back. So don't say I must write this entire essay today, unless of course you're procrastinating and it's due tomorrow. Then that might be a time where you have to do that. But take it in short chunks. The third tip for preventing writer's block is to take short breaks to refresh your brain. Don't take breaks that are too long, or you might never come back. And it sometimes is hard to kind of come back and get started again if you've taken a break that's too long. So take short breaks. Be reasonable with your goals. You don't have to finish in one sitting. In fact, it's probably best. Sometimes it's really nice to take a break and to come back because you see things with fresh eyes. You always want to keep your audience and your purpose in mind. If you're writing to persuade, you want to always make that your main focus so that you're always persuading, because if you deviate from that and you lose that focus, it may tend to become more persuasive or more informative than persuasive. If you're writing to describe, you might lose focus if you don't keep thinking about the idea that I need to describe in this particular essay. terms of revision and editing, revising is taking a look at the higher order concerns, the big things. You're adding, you're cutting, you're changing information, you're moving the organization around. These are big things. And your purpose there is to make your ideas more clear, more accurate, more interesting, or more convincing. When you edit, you take a second look at how you express your ideas. These are the lower order concerns. It's the grammar, the punctuation, your sentence structure. It's really the polishing of your piece. Revising is the big stuff. Editing is the small stuff. Higher order versus lower order. Revising and editing, there's a lot of things that you can do in order to get the most out of your revision and your editing. Return to your essay after a few days. And in fact, in this class, we take a whole week off sometimes in order for you to kind of have some clarity. You might ask someone else for constructive criticism, and we'll do that in a variety of ways this semester. You'll submit to a writing center, you'll submit to your peers, and you'll submit to a website that will help you out with that. Might help to become or pretend to become one of your readers. What is it that's difficult to understand? If I'm taking putting on the hat of my reader, what might they have trouble with? This is a topic that I know a lot about, but maybe my reader doesn't. So where will they have trouble understanding? A lot of revision items, and we'll go through these pretty quickly. You can review this presentation at your leisure, but we want to create unity and coherence, making sure that things make sense, that they're all clearly related to your topic sentence, and that they flow well in a good order. Transitions are an important part of that. You can find those on pages 338 and 339 in your textbook. We want to be as concise as possible. We don't want to go on, and we could say something in 10 words. We want to say it in 10 words. We don't need to say it in 30. And so there's some ideas there that you can take a look at. Pause the video if you want to read those. You'll also find and read about those in your textbook. We want to be clear, avoid slang, casual language, contractions, cliches. We want to look at words that have the correct connotation being the feeling that a word gives you. So if we're trying to build this very positive impression, we want to use positive words. And we want to be specific rather than very general. And again, those things are discussed in your textbook. When we talk about peer feedback, there's several different kinds that we'll use in this course: Writing Center, Smart Thinking, Peer Revision. And then just a quick note about feedback, because for every essay you'll get some kind of feedback. You are the author, so you choose what you agree with and what you disagree with, what you change and what you have remained the same. It is your writing, so you are in charge of those kind of things, and I encourage you to make decisions based on the fact that you are the owner of this work. If people, though, are making the same comments over and over again, you might want to take a look at some of those things. But accept the feedback as constructive criticism. When you're asked to peer revise somebody else's essays, give them the feedback that you would desire to have. Make sure that it's good, specific feedback and constructive. Don't beat up on a paper, but instead suggest how things might be made better. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Reach out via email or via phone.